You're listening to I Have Some Notes, a podcast supported by listeners like you. To contribute, visit patreon.com/I Have Some Notes.
I have a pitch for a great new take on a beloved MCU character, Flapped in America.
Sorry, what?
He's just like Steve Rogers, but with cool wings instead of superpowers. Flapped in America.
I have some notes.
Welcome, everyone, to I Have Some Notes, the movie podcast with cuts, keeps, punch-ups, and tweaks on mediocre movies. I'm Liam Creswick.
I'm Scott C. Bourgeois.
And I'm Greg Beaver.
And today we are discussing Captain American: Brave New World. And we are joined by the one and only Robin Taylor. Hello, Robin. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, guys. Why don't you ever invite me for movies that I like?
Yeah, you were even nonplussed on Nosferatu.
I was bored, but that's a whole different story.
That's a different episode.
That's a debate for another episode, for sure.
Just kind of outed you there because I had mentioned in the Nosferatu episode we'd gone to see it with someone who I didn't want to shame by saying they didn't like it.
I'm not ashamed by not liking it because it was boring.
And it's insights like that, which is why we are excited to have you. And you're fun to go see the movies with. I appreciate your enthusiasm for cinema. It's good to see someone. You've always got what I like about going to see movies with you is you've always got details about the movie that I didn't know. And I love the meta text of things. And you've always got some fascinating detail I was not hip to. So I appreciate that about catching flicks in person with you.
Thank you very much. I have no life.
We're all doing a podcast on a Friday night. I don't think we need to. So the four of us, rushed out to theaters this weekend, battled the crowds. It was so packed because it's just such an appetite for things with America in the title these days.
Yeah.
To go see Captain America: Brave New World came out last weekend, February 14th.
At the time of recording.
At the time of recording. I suppose so. Yeah. No, I was like, it's last week when this drops, but no, it isn't. It's 2 weeks. Directed by Julius Ona from the Cloverfield Paradox. Written by Rob Edwards, Malcolm Spellman, Dallin Moosen, Julius Ona, and Peter Glanz.
Yeah. So, you can always tell that it's going to be a great movie when it's got a whole list of people who wrote it.
And it's based on an antiquated sense of patriotism. That 5 writers thing really does make it kind of tells on itself that this is an exquisite corpse of a movie. I said this when we were watching the movie, and I'll just preface by saying this is not a terrible Marvel movie. It's very watchable. There's a lot to like about it, but I mentioned while we were watching it, it felt like we were watching a season of television condensed down into a film. And seeing that list of writers, it's like, oh, you could probably pick out which parts were written by each writer, because I feel like that's why it was so disjointed and why it felt clumsily stitched together in some ways. And yeah, you're right. The movie kind of tells on itself by having a whole menu of writers who were involved with it. Speaking of stitched together, just in case people thought I was just dunking on the movie, an exquisite corpse is the name of when you multiple people draw chunks of the same illustration or write chunks of the same piece of work, sort of pass it down the line. It is an expression. There's a weird movie too called The Exquisite Corpse Project where a bunch of comedians try to write a movie like that, but then they all get weird and paranoid about what the other one's setting up for them and kind of ruin the own experiment. It's strange. If you can never see it, it's a weird one.
Somewhere along those lines.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, along those lines, I kind of felt like watching this was like watching a movie on life support. I've been watching The Pit A lot, and this is like a medical procedural that's just like hyper realistic emergency room drama. It's great. Go check it out. It's on Crave right now. Just seeing like how they are desperately trying to find some kind of emotional heartbeat to this. You could see like inside the reshoots, them just laying the paddles down on the script and clear,
Yeah. That's, I mean, we'll get into that more, but I think because a lot of the juicy emotional and motivational stakes were already explored in Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Mm-hmm.
Like him having to rise to the occasion. Does he have what it takes to be the new Captain America? Like already that got exhausted once. So there's kind of like no meat left on the bones for this movie.
Or they're just assuming that nobody watched the series and they need to do it again in the film, which is also Marvel kind of telling on itself in a different way there.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been for me had they done a retelling for Falcon and the Winter Soldier in this movie. I would have been like, yay, because I had no idea what was going on in that show.
I'll finish up with the cast here. Anthony Mackie, of course, is Captain America. Harrison Ford as Thaddeus Ross. Danny Ramirez as Joaquin Torres. Shira Haas as Ruth Bat-Seraph. Carl Lumley as Isaiah Bradley. Tim Blake Nelson as Samuel Stearns. Heart React. More on that later. And Giancarlo Esposito as Sidewinder.
I feel like Carl Lumley is the one guy doing a lot of good work in this movie. Like he's got really, first of all, he's just like an interesting looking man. If you put like two rectangles, a square and a square together, like that's just sort of like his shape. And he's got incredibly expressive eyes, and like the scenes where he is concerned about his suit gave me, the biggest heartbeat of like an emotional punch compared to a lot of the other stuff. Well, there's one other scene that I thought was, we'll get into that later, but yeah.
Actually, out of curiosity, if you didn't see Falcon and the Winter Soldier, what was your reaction to him picking up the punching bag? Like, did that track? Was that confusing at all?
No, I mean, it is a Marvel movie, and I just immediately assumed like, okay, he's some kind of super. And then like, it doesn't take much to figure out that like, if you're in a Captain America movie, he's probably been taking the serum or whatever, right?
He's way more interesting in the series. He's like one of the most interesting beats of the series.
Yeah. And I mean, he's a character from the comic books, and that is kind of his comic book story, is that he's kind of the forgotten original Captain America. He was a guy who was experimented on with an attempt to recreate the super soldier serum while he was in prison. And the US government just tried to like keep that hushed up and push him out of the limelight. And it's a really sad story. And it gets translated pretty well. Yeah.
Does he also become a Manchurian candidate in the comics?
No, I don't believe so. No, that was just the leader using his mind control powers.
It's more sad than that because he wasn't in prison. He was a GI. They're basically taking a page out of the experimentation that happened on African Americans soldiers in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it was after Steve goes into the ice, they're trying to recreate, that kind of with the serum on Isaiah, but it doesn't work right. And then Isaiah ends up in jail because he's sent into Korea, I think. I don't remember. But he's basically branded a war criminal and sent to jail. So yeah, it's, and then they experiment on him. Yeah, it's brutal. And the original comic book is like really interesting and beautifully drawn in this really, unique artistic style. And it's really, really like it touches on race and politics and government and the military and service and all that. And it's really awesome. And they don't do any of that in the show.
Are you suggesting that it had something to say? Because that is, it would have been lovely for this movie to have had that.
They touch on it in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. They don't do a deep dive into the story, and they're translating it in a way that makes it fit with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But I think they do it kind of justice. as
in that
much as
show. Not
in that
again.
show.
There's no meat left on the bone.
Yeah,
for this
not
movie.
really in the film, unfortunately. No.
Well, why don't we go to the plot summary and then start sharing our thoughts, what we liked, what we didn't, and then, of course, our notes.
What do we know?
There were 5 shooters. This was a coordinated terrorist attack, sir.
I was a wartime general. Now I'm a wartime president. Your inner circle's been compromised. Let me fix it. Watch yourself. You're not Steve Rogers. You're right. I'm not. Wait for it. We're on the brink of war. I can't trust anyone. Nothing about this feels right. Captain America. You ever ask yourself, who's playing who?
Sam Wilson has taken up the mantle of Captain America as seen in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. The new U.S. President, Thunderbolt Ross, as seen in Captain America Civil War, has our hero running all over the world beating up bad guys and securing precious MacGuffins. After one successful such mission in Mexico, Cap and his pals get invited to the White House to receive accolades and watch the president show off the rare mineral adamantium, discovered on the giant celestial that emerged in the Indian Ocean as seen in The Eternals. Sam's mentor, Isaiah Bradley, as seen in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, gets mind-controlled into attacking the president. The race is now on to discover what nefarious forces are behind the clandestine attack before Isaiah gets executed. Investigations lead them to Camp Echo 1, where they discover the plans of one Samuel Stearns, as seen in The Incredible Hulk. His gamma-irradiated brain has given him the power to determine the probability of all possible events, making him a formidable puppet master with total control of the film's plot. His plan? Ruin the reputation of President Ross and turn him into a Hulk, as seen in The Avengers, but red this time. Captain America and his new teammates, Joaquin Torres, as seen in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Ruth Bat-Saraf, as seen in... Oh, damn, they actually had a new idea in this one. Anyway, they must fight to undo Stearns' damage to global peace and stop one president's rampage.
So I'd love to start off with what I liked about this movie very, very much. It got all kinds of goodwill from me for one simple reason. And I'm even aware of the flaws of this, but I am choosing to look at this through rose-colored glasses, or at least gamma-irradiated glasses. I love the actor Tim Blake Nelson. As a short guy, I like seeing funny short actors. We stand a short king. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Brilliant film. Tim Blake Nelson rules, and he ruled as Samuel Stern, which was a bit part in the 2008 Hulk movie. And then they set up that he gets banner blood on his brain, and they're setting him up as the leader in that movie. I love Hulk lore. I love Hulk comics. I love the leader. He's such a weird little guy. He's a fun character. He's just the Hulk, but instead of muscles, he brains. And I have been waiting 17 years for them to pay that off. And this movie could have been like Ant-Man level unwatchable. Like this could have been the worst Marvel movie, and I still would have left with a smile. Quantumania, by the way, not the first one. I loved it. I've been waiting 17 years for them to pay this off, and I kind of don't care that he was used badly. I kind of don't care that his plan makes no sense. I was just thrilled to see this thing that I have been waiting so long to pay off. So that was a win for me.
You say his plan makes no sense. I'm just curious, how do you feel that it doesn't make sense?
I guess it's not so much that it makes sense. Like, it makes sense from a motivational standpoint. It just doesn't make sense from a, like, why did this thing happen in the movie? Because the leader wanted it to. Why did this thing happen in the movie? Because the leader wanted it to. Why did this thing happen? Because he wanted it to. But then why didn't it happen? Ooh, he didn't account for that. And it's just kind of like, not like his powers are just, he's got the power of plot advancement.
I have an example. I have a very specific example of that.
Yeah.
There's a point earlier, maybe in like the second act of the movie, where Sam and Joaquin get their hands on a sample of the pills that President Ross has been taking, and they take them to his like Navy SEAL pals, and they're going to use their military science to run some tests on it. And then Stearns shows up and like kills the Navy SEAL guy so that he can't spill the beans. But in like the next scene, Sam still finds out what's going on. The leader pretty much tells him what's going on. And there's no way that Sam could have gone and stopped the president from turning into the Hulk, even if he had known that the pills were there. Why did he do that? Mm-hmm. Because plot beat. Like that's literally like it had no bearing on it other than we want the leader to kill one of Sam's friends for emotional reasons. And it's never brought up again. Sam doesn't find out that the guy died, I don't think, for the rest of the film.
No.
So like it's a scene it's this floating scene that has no reason to be there. And like that's just an example of how clumsily the leader is dropped into the movie in some places. Like it's just a reason for him to be there.
That stitches all these disparate recuts together. If
yeah.
they need to justify why one thing happened and they added
the leader did it.
Because the leader did it. He knows everything. He knew it was going to happen except for the things he didn't.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. But also he's small and has a big brain. Hulk villain. I'm pretty excited.
Oh no, I'm not saying I wasn't excited that he was there. And there's a lot to like about what he's doing in the film. It's just there are a lot of places where it's kind of clumsy, for sure.
What about y'all? What did you like?
I dug both of the largest action sequences. The battle, sort of the winged dogfight around the Celestial was a lot of fun, and the Hulk sequence was pretty great. Someone was saying after we got out of the movie that just like there's something about the Hulk that just looks great on screen. The weight of him, the power, and it got me. I was pretty bored through most of the movie, and those two sequences kind of saved it a little bit for me.
Yeah,
and I was quite surprised that when I was watching the trailer, I was like, "Oh boy, that Hulk sequence doesn't look that great." But at least on the screen that we watched, and I don't know if it was just like a poor interpolated IMAX projection or something, but like everything looked good for the most part. It looked a lot better than what I had seen previously. So I mean, maybe that's just sort of like often trailers don't have necessarily the completely finished visual effects. So maybe that's that. I don't know. There were some bad shots in after the action beat sequence is over, but generally speaking, everything else looks pretty good. It almost makes it feel like two completely different movies. And this happens a lot with Marvel movies where, they slough off the big action set pieces to the effects house. They do their thing and, they don't quite connect cinematically between what's going on, when they're actually shooting on sets and things like that. So I don't know, but, overall, I was pretty stoked about those last two scenes.
So I agree with that. The Indian Ocean scene feels like the most finished and mature part of the movie, where I think that was the sequence they had the clearest vision on and executed on the best, because it's the emotional stakes are there. It cross cuts, it builds tension, and it has a resolution. And there's a little bit of jeopardy. So it actually is a phenomenal action scene inside of this kind of wet turd of a movie. The ending is great too, because I'm a Hulk maniac from when I was a kid in the 70s, right? So like,
hell yeah.
And I said in the movie theater, the rampaging Hulk brings an energy to the movie that is so different from everything else, because there's actual threat, because he's so massively powerful. It becomes hard to conceive how someone like Sam Wilson, who has nothing but the wings, is even going to survive this. And there was a shot that literally, like, it shocked me. It scared me, in that was phenomenally well done. So I feel like those two sequences were like the most polished and the best executed. The denouement of the Hulk sequence has like reshoots in the middle of it. In the middle of Sam's scene is like shots that don't match, that have been reshot. Right. So like it's a really compromised movie. And I don't think they had a clear idea what they were trying to do, except for those two sequences, quite frankly.
Compromised is a great word for it.
Yeah.
You can tell the bones were there, and it's just been dented and dinged, and
and there's definitely some stuff that was added or moved around, and then they had to like piece in ways to get back to those two massive set pieces. And,
for sure.
Yeah. Because as I said, it feels very episodic. It feels like this was 12 episodes of a TV series that was jammed down into a 2-hour film to me because of how disjointed everything feels.
You had suggested, Robin, that you felt like the Ross's emotional arc was grafted onto the film in almost in post or later on in their production.
I don't know. What I meant when I said that was that when they wrote it and they needed to get someone to play Ross, they went to Harrison Ford and other people and offered, can you play Ross? And then had to give him something to do. Because if you didn't give him anything to do, he wasn't going to do the movie. Right? So then, like, the emotional core of the movie is Harrison Ford's performance. And it's crazy because he's not Captain America.
Yeah.
Anthony Mackie's Captain America. Anthony Mackie has no emotional follow through other than a kind of weak, should I do this or should I not thing.
Yeah.
Right. And it sucks. And that was explored in the TV show. Right. So, and it was explored well in the TV show. So they didn't find a new thing for Anthony Mackie to do. And then they're like, well, we got Harrison Ford, and Harrison Ford does a great performance in this movie. It's phenomenal. His character's motivations are completely, like, I'll get into it with my fixes, but everything they did in the movie, they've gotten all the characters' motivations wrong. Like, there's a deep misunderstanding of who these characters are and why they're doing what they're doing, in my opinion. So,
yeah,
based
because
on the earlier works,
I feel like there's almost a thematic through line if you want to tie a Ross and this might be tiptoeing up to fixes. Ross and Sam's kind of emotional journeys together that they don't do. And it's right there. Like, I can see it. It's kind of low hanging fruit. And maybe I'll bring it up in the second half. But, yeah, you're right. It's missing. Sam feels really flat in the movie, which is a shame because Anthony Mackie's really good.
Yeah.
He's got great chemistry with, the actor playing Joaquin. I loved seeing them bounce off of each other. I actually was disappointed in hindsight that Danny Ramirez was taken out of the movie in Act 2. Like, Joaquin is injured and he's just done. And we don't get to see him and Anthony Mackie have that wonderful chemistry anymore for the entire rest of the film until the denouement. And that kind of sucked. As I wanted to see more of him. But yeah.
Yeah. And I think like that in that denouement is like that last bit of emotional weight that I felt when Captain America is talking to the new Falcon and he's lamenting his failure at the celestial battle, and there's a discussion about the pressures of being a hero, and Sam Wilson is basically talking about like how much pressure there is on him and how he essentially feels like he needs to be not just Steve Rogers but better than Steve Rogers, right? Which is that's you've probably heard that a lot from black activists who say that like it's not just good enough to be a good person or the smartest person or whatever as a black person. You have to be beyond that in order to get the same recognition. And in that it just felt like, okay, like that kind of feels like that should have been the movie to me, but I don't really think that Marvel is at all interested in taking on those kinds of themes. I think they're scared of them. And I think that's why a lot of their movies tend to fall flat because they don't really have any interest in saying anything. And I think that ultimately it's gonna cost them dearly when they try to remake the X-Men and try and do the same thing. And like, well, we're going to do the X-Men, but not say anything. And that's just going to piss people off.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting when you think about it, because why follow through on making Sam Wilson Captain America if you're not going to explore Sam Wilson being Captain America? Like if you're not going to go whole hog on it, and they're not, and they're going kind of half-ass on it, and it's a disservice to the character, it's a disservice to the actor, and it's weak, and it's
one thing I actually go ahead.
Sorry, like if you're not gonna go the distance and you're not really going to explore it, why not just make Bucky Captain America? He's the safer choice.
So the one thing I wanted to bring up is I actually really, really liked that like Sam from the beginning of the movie is being addressed as Cap by everybody, like military, by police, and they're doing it respectfully, right? So there's an acceptance from people in uniform that this is Cap, and this is who we're going to accept as our Captain America. If the movie had anything to say, there should have been some like shitty redneck soldiers in there who have a problem with a black man being Captain America and have to get wised up, but whatever, we're not going to get that. Right. So, but I did like that. It totally undercuts Sam's like, I don't know why I'm Captain America. Everyone thinks you're Captain America that you're running into, Sam. You're Captain America. They've accepted you. Right. So, anyways, I get into that too in my fixes. So,
yeah.
Do we want to just jump into fixes? Because I like the way I approached this particular episode is I have a bullet list of things that were wrong, and I was like, "Whew, I can maybe handle one or two of these." But unless there was any other sort of general observations,
the only thing I really want to get out there before we go to fixes is that the one thing that really, really bugged me throughout the movie that took me out of it the most was how much everyone was directly speaking to what the plot was. And they're like, this is what we're doing, this is what's happening now. And it made for a lot of extremely awkward and flat dialogue. And I think that is a large degree why I felt so bored throughout everything. Because even when there was opportunities for some emotional weight, it was kind of undercut by the poor dialogue.
I feel like we should quickly underscore.
Yeah.
This is not by far the worst Marvel movie. It is a flawed movie, but it is very watchable. There's a lot of there are pieces of it which are dynamite and excellent, and there are pieces of it which are just kind of like meh, but it's not bad. It's not unwatchably bad. And I feel like we've been dumping on it a lot, and we should just underscore, we all walked out of the film having enjoyed it.
To that end, I think everyone has been dumping on this movie a lot. And I think it is unfair. I think this movie is going to pay for a lot of the sins of the Marvels, of Quantum Mania, of even the Eternals. Like, post Endgame has been pretty dismal, and I think it's just at the point now where people kind of like, the only thing we love more than a hero is watching a hero fall. Like, people kind of like, I remember the weekend Endgame came out, people were like losing their minds in the theater, and like, we're never going to hit that high again. And I think people kind of get a kick out of kicking these billion-dollar movies when they're down. Like, it's like, you guys tried to keep doing it. You tried to keep entertaining us. And I think this particular movie gets a little bit worse of a rap just because of what came before it. It's pretty fine. Sorry, go ahead, Robin.
It is a perfectly watchable, mediocre movie. It's fine. It's like, that's what I keep telling people. It's fine. I will tell you right now, I am never gonna not dump on these massive movies not being great, because I was on a different podcast one time and we were talking about Fast and Furious. We were talking about Fast and Furious. Hobbs and Shaw is what we were talking about. And I was like, no, man, this is a massive $200 million movie that's hired by the best people in the world as professional filmmakers.
Mhm.
And they're making crap because of whatever externalities, Disney, boardroom, whatever's happening.
International markets. Yeah.
Stop accepting mediocrity. These are professionals. If you had any other profession in your life that gave you mediocre shit that you paid for, you'd fire them. So
That's fair point. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
That is some
and
excellent
look at how many
perspective,
perfect
actually.
movies come out of like A24, like mid-budget stuff. Like if the Daniels can make a perfect film on an eighth of this thing's budget. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're not wrong.
The budget pressures are massive when you're making a movie of this size because you have so many masters to serve that I don't envy the filmmakers, but like part of the reason why more experienced filmmakers can come in and make more exceptional movies under these circumstances is because they've done it before. They're experienced and they're not going to be as easily cowed by executives. Right. And that's kind of the Disney problem is they only hire people they can beat up. You know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. They go after, they find the directors who made one good independent film and then stick them with a $200 million budget and then tell them that they're doing everything wrong. And
but then
or
you
they
get
hire
Ryan
somebody who's
Coogler,
done TV. Yeah.
right? Like Ryan Coogler went and kicked ass with Black Panther, right? But Ryan Coogler is also a phenomenal filmmaker with a very specific vision who's not going to back down.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think maybe in that particular instance, like, this is just obviously pure speculation on my part, but like the studio may have been more wary of interfering in that film because of the cultural context surrounding
Optics.
it. Yeah. Yeah. You know, that's me being typical cynical Greg. But that's, the other thing I think that Captain America runs up against is that when we were growing up in the 80s and 90s, it was, you know, you would always imagine how a movie like a Spider-Man or something like that would be made. But the problem was at the time the technology really wasn't there to properly interpret comic books in the way that they can be now. And then, you know, in the 2000s and the run up to Endgame, you know, it was this constant upgrade of like seeing closer and closer things to what everyone was excited about in the 80s and 90s with comics leading up to eventually seeing Thanos and seeing all your heroes on screen. So now that's over and that rush is over, like these films that are coming out now, I in terms of quality, it's just, I think it's like a matter of degrees. Like it's not like those movies before Endgame were like all world cinema. They weren't, but you know, like even like a 10% dip in quality, compared to those is going to be noticeable. But then you also don't have that excitement and momentum, running up to it, and now they're kind of like in this situation where they're trying to like repeat the success. It's not going to work, and it kind of feels like they're more rudderless than even DC is right now. You know, so like you know.
I mean, I'm going to disagree. It totally could work. The problem is they've abandoned the entire formula that brought them here, right? Because when you look at those first movies, they started with Iron Man. It was a surprise success. Incredible Hulk did okay. So then they did Captain America, Thor, and then they had that triumvirate of really interesting actors embodying these characters in a really authentic way, authentic to the characters in the comics, right? And then immediately there was 3 Iron Man movies, 3 Captain America movies, and 3 Thor movies. And the Avengers happened in between, working up to the Avengers. By the time they got to the first Avengers movie, people had already seen all the individual movies and were excited about this idea. And all the movies spoke in reference to each other. They were all cross-referencing. There was cameos. Since Endgame, Marvel has been puking out movies trying to find someone will like. And the only one that's been successful really has been Shang-Chi, which was great. And then they have not made another Shang-Chi movie in years. And it's like, if this was old Marvel, there would already be Shang-Chi 2 would have happened.
Yeah.
Before
And it's
you did
because
anything else.
And it's because they're still interested in introducing all these other new characters and not in exploring the characters that are resonating with the audience.
Right. But creating that repetition is what kept us going and got us excited, because it was like, okay, now we're back. Now we're together. We're doing this again. We really like you. Keep telling us the story. We like, and then there's more and more characters in Civil War, you know, and then it's like, okay, where are we going from here? Right. And then there's Infinity War, and then there's Captain Marvel, because you got to introduce her before Endgame. Right.
And you're not wrong, because that's why everyone was so stoked on Deadpool last year. Like, oh my God, the third Deadpool movie, the thing we all really love. Like, yeah. So,
and that's where they've screwed up, is they've dropped that repetition of like reinforcing, come back and see these characters you like, because they keep trying to introduce new characters, and it's not working because people they can't catch their breath because there's so much stuff out there. Right. Yeah. So yeah, man,
I like that take a lot. It's not that there's too many of the movies. It's that there's too many different ones.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. I mean, I also think there's too many movies, but that's like, I think like, especially just in general, like, the absence makes the heart grow fonder. And I think that trying to, certainly in post Endgame, they were trying to do, did they have 4 movies in 1 year or whatever? Like it got pretty saturated.
Plus diluting things with the Disney Plus TV series.
And like, now you don't really have a good sense of what your audience has and hasn't seen. Whereas before you could be reasonably confident, that, most of your audience is at least, mostly familiar with the characters. They've probably seen one Thor movie. Maybe they didn't see The Dark World, but they've probably definitely seen Ragnarok, right? So they have an understanding of what's going on.
Well, and it's interesting that we bring all this up, because we were even saying this movie feels too late.
Yes.
Like Captain America Brave New World feels like it should have come out 2 years ago, on the heels of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. When Eternals, when a lot of the plot threads that it's trying to pick back up were a little fresher in everybody's mind. People might have been a little more excited to find out what's going on next with it. And instead it's all just kind of like, oh yeah, that thing. Oh, hey, yeah, what happened with that thing? Oh, I remember that. Like, it's just, there was a lot of that in the movie theater. And it really it feels too late to have this movie coming out now.
Yeah. Well, these are all notes for Kevin Feige, and we're here to give notes to Julius Ona. So let's go and fix Captain America Brave New World after this.
What's up, nerds? This is Josh from Talking Smack, where we talk superheroes, movies, animation, comics, and so much more. Every week, we break down the latest blockbuster movies, TV shows, revisit comic events. We even talk to comic creators like Kyle Higgins, Melissa Flores, and Matt Groom. And don't miss out on our Superhero Showdown episodes, where we debate your suggestions on who would win in a fight, or maybe they might become friends. So join in on the conversation with me, Josh, and my co-host Alex every Wednesday on your podcatcher of choice. Look for our yellow and red icon, and we'll see you soon, Smackheads.
Welcome back to I Have Some Notes. We're talking Captain America, Brave New World. And so it looks like a lot of the fixes we have for this are very much more thematic, give it a little more interesting, zhuzh it up a little bit with something real and not something so milquetoast and played out. But my notes, if I may start, are very like rapid fire bullet points. So if any of these inspire you, I want to hear it. I only have a fix for the last one. But these are definitely things I noticed that could be quick and easy fixes. If you'll indulge me, as you said earlier, release it 2 years ago. It seems like just do that. I don't like that Stearns just gives up at the end. Like he just goes, "Well, I got the Hulk to spaz out, so lock me away. I'm done. I don't need to be in the movie anymore."
Yeah. Speaking of reshoots, that was another egregious one where there were shots that didn't match.
And it's just kind of, I wanted him. He's such a mastermind. Like he should have an out to avoid capture further. Like
Or at the very least, make it clear that his capture was part of the plan.
Yeah. Instead of just being like giving up because they don't need him in the movie anymore.
Yeah.
I think we should see Anthony Mackie's Cap be just a little more vulnerable. Like he didn't take the serum, but he's still doing all the cool backflips and like taking axes to the chest. I don't think you have to go full like Die Hard with it. He doesn't have to be like a bloody mess by the end, but just make us feel that he's in danger a little bit more. I think there needs to be much more Liv Tyler. I don't know if you guys agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah. I
hate
mean,
that.
if
Use
that's
her or don't.
Yeah. If that arc is going to pay off in a better way, then it would be lovely to see her a bit more.
And she's like, she was working with Bruce Banner on the Hulk serum, wasn't she? Like, am I misremembering that?
No,
Isn't
that's
she
right.
a scientist? She's a
Yeah.
scientist. So if like Sam has a science problem, why go to his Navy SEAL friends when he could go to like Liv Tyler's character, when he could go to Dr. Ross for help, especially if it's gamma radiation related? She's literally an expert on it.
Yeah.
And how interesting would it have been for her to be the one to realize the danger her dad is in?
Yeah.
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 Like
there you go.
that is really low hanging fruit. It's right there, and they didn't do it. Like
The other way you can use her, and this isn't my fix. This I got it from the pitch meeting guy, but it is pretty profound. Cap tries so hard to talk the Hulk down and it doesn't work, and then 5 minutes later he tries again and it does work. It shouldn't work for him, especially if we've seen her more throughout the movie. It should work for Betty Ross.
yeah,
In the just have her be like, "Dad, sun's getting real low, big guy," and then like we're fine. You know?
Yeah. I was sure that was what they were working up to, and then it wasn't, and I was like, all right.
I don't think she was in the original production plan for this movie.
no,
I think
it
she's-
really does feel like she was a reshoot. Yeah,
Can we cut Ruth entirely? Just cut.
Sure.
Cut Ruth. We don't need Ruth here.
I on the one hand, I don't mind her character. I think it's neat, but at the same time, yeah, we don't really need her in the movie.
Her presence bubbles up a lot of weird feelings. Both, why is a Black Widow, a former Black Widow, the president's main
Security
bodyguard and
advisor.
head of security? That seems weird and an inherent conflict. And in the same way that movies about America right now are not really popular, movies about Israeli characters kind of weird and kind of makes a lot of weird feelings that I don't necessarily want in my escapism. Or at least do have it and say something with it and make a point about it, even a point I disagree with. So cut Ruth or use her for
Or use
something
her more
relevant.
interestingly. Yeah.
Speaking of people who didn't get used, so why is Giancarlo Esposito here at all? Not
I can
that
tell you
character. I think I know why, but I'd love to hear you probably describe it in
So
better
they,
context than I
and this
do.
is going to come up in my stuff, but like they originally shot this Serpent Society as costume supervillains that have powers, right?
Yeah.
And they test screened it, and this is all hearsay, but they test screened it, and the audiences didn't like it. They thought it was silly. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So they were like, well, crap, our villains are sort of MacGuffin villains. No one's buying it. So they yanked all that out and they hired him to come in, and because he has a relationship with the director and wants to work with Anthony Mackie. So they were like, well, come in for a couple days and we'll shoot your stuff here, shoot you out as like a military guy, as part of the Serpent Society. Right. So it's, this movie, they didn't know what tone they wanted. I think the problem is they didn't know what movie they were making until after they made it, and they had to remake it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, because I think they started in a different tone and then test screened it, and everyone, probably the cards came back with, we thought this was going to be like Winter Soldier. Why wasn't it like Winter Soldier?
Yeah.
And then they had to make it more like Winter Soldier.
They were making a costumed superhero romp, and everybody was expecting a political thriller.
Yeah.
Yeah, hang on. Okay, hang on. Everyone talks about Winter Soldier as a political thriller. There's a freaking German Nazi scientist's brain inside a mile of computer tape in the middle, explaining how Hydra exists.
Yeah, that's
It's
from a
not
John le
political
Carré
thriller.
novel.
That's
I didn't
a
say it was a
superhero
good
movie.
political thriller.
No, I think it's part of the political thriller genre, but it's not.
Yeah, it's not
a
Tinker
political
Tailor
thriller.
Soldier Spy.
No, it's a really good action movie, right? But like,
It's a super
I hate
spy
it when people
movie.
say that. It's like, come on, man.
So the other thing that I find kind of annoying with the Giancarlo Esposito thing is I guess the wrestler Seth Rollins was originally
Yep.
in the movie, and I think he got replaced by Giancarlo Esposito. And what a waste of Giancarlo Esposito, because his whole role as an actor, as a villain, is to bring this gravitas, this like highest authority threat to whatever it is he's doing. He's not just an idiot with a gun who's going to have a firefight in the street with our hero. He's the puppet master. He's pulling all the strings. And so first of all, I think like that's what the WWE is for cranking out guys to play mid-level heavy bad guys in action movies. Like Second City makes SNL cast members. WWE makes, second in commands of the bad guy team. Like that's what they're for. So put Seth Rollins back. And obviously I love Tim Blake Nelson. I love that the leader was there, but you know who would have made a great leader if they didn't already have Tim Blake Nelson? Giancarlo Esposito. Like that's a guy you have sit back in a chair and be like, I'm the puppet master of everything. Everything that's happened is under my control and I'm 1,000 steps ahead of you. Like that's who you have play the leader, not just some dipshit with a gun. So yeah. Don't spoil the Red Hulk was another one of my notes. Don't put that in the trailer. Cause that was kind of the big reveal of the movie and it's integral to the marketing. And this is the part I want to fix. This is the thing I actually think I have a fix for. And tell me what you guys think. What if you were to switch the two big action set pieces around so that the Hulk going on a rampage, Red Hulk rampaging, leads into our darkest hour 2/3 of the way through? Everything is lost. Everything is terrible. There's no hope. Darkest moment, point in our story. And then, all the pieces click together. We figure out the conspiracy. It's this leader guy at Camp Echo 1. Let's go kick his ass. Oh no, we can't kick his ass at Camp Echo 1 because he's currently got a bunch of fighter pilots brainwashed and they're going to start World War III. Does that track or?
Yeah, I think that could be made to work for sure.
Yeah. And then you can have the Hulk in your marketing promotion because he's the Act 2 set piece, not the big twisty reveal. So those are my notes. That's what I got.
Except my only issue with that, and this is just a quibble. The Hulk is an incredible physical threat.
Yeah.
And there's no way that Sam Wilson walks away from a fight with the Hulk ready to go and take on some fighter planes. Whereas there is a chance that the guy whose whole shtick is I have a wingsuit can take on some fighter planes and then go on to take on the Hulk.
Fair. I can elaborate a little more then. I think if the leader's plan is a little less, the next plot beat needs to happen. So I predicted it was going to happen. And a little bit more like we got this mind control story over here and we got the president turning into a Hulk over here. And we've got, these other, the Serpent Society doing chicanery over here. What's going on? Damn, there's so much weird shit going on in the first act of this movie. And just as I'm trying to get a grip on it, a Hulk explodes at the White House. Gotta go deal with that. It can kind of feel more of a like he's got his shit together. He's no one's pulling the strings anymore. He's got the strings in a bunch, and now him and Danny can go. Not Danny. Joaquin can go have this awesome fight where the stakes are World War III. Like, yes, he's capable to do it, and he's gone from fighting a physical threat to a mental threat.
I actually have the solution here, and that is number one. If you move the Hulk set piece to Act 2, Sam is going to be able to take on the Hulk with Joaquin, number one. What if he's also got Isaiah Bradley with him? Because then he's got a literal super soldier who can be there to absorb some hits so that Sam doesn't get so beat up that he can't go take on the fighter planes later on. And I think
but then-
that would be potentially cool.
It would be cool to see that fight, but getting him out of prison is like is the only motivation he's got. Don't take it away from him.
Then we just need to come up with a better motivation for Sam. Robin.
Okay. All right. So this is involved. So you guys are going to have to bear with me for a moment.
Sure.
Right?
I've been rambling.
So-
I'd love to stop talking.
Okay. So, for once, so let's get out of the way the necessary mechanics of this movie, the things that this movie must achieve plot wise, right?
Mm-hmm.
One, adamantium has to be presented as a thing that exists because they want to make X-Men movies eventually, right? Two, Ross has to turn into a Hulk. Three, what was the third one? What was the other mechanic? I mean, that's kind of it in terms of, there was something else that was a MacGuffin.
Is it keeping Isaiah
Anyways,
safe or?
Isaiah's kind of tertiary in the movie because he's whether Isaiah gets out or not, nothing changes plot wise, right? It's like
Fair.
Emotionally, it's good he got out. But again, this movie's so cluttered emotionally that there's no real, it's not a real motivation, right? Like Sam feels like he owes Isaiah.
Yeah.
But also if we took Isaiah completely out of the movie, it wouldn't matter.
Yeah, he'd still
Is-
want to go stop World War III in the Indian
Yeah.
Ocean. Yeah.
The thing I always come back to is what is this movie about? What is any movie about? Right? Not what happens, but what is it about? And this movie, in my opinion, has got two themes that it's trying to pursue, or it thinks it's trying to pursue. One is with Sam is acceptance of, am I capable of doing this? Can I actually fight superheroes and become be successful the way Steve was? Right. And two, with Ross is, can I change from being a person? I'll let you go. Hang on. But can I change? Right. That's the two themes. Go ahead, Scott.
I want to dovetail those together because I had a theme idea that works as one theme that kind of encapsulates that all. And that is the theme of legacy, because Sam is in many ways Steve Rogers' legacy. He's the guy who's taken up the Cap mantle. You've got Isaiah Bradley and him dealing with that legacy. You've got Ross worried about his legacy, not just in his relationship with his daughter, but like, what is he going to leave to the world? He's recognized that he's seen as a bad guy and he wants to leave something positive in his wake. And you've got Stearns trying to ruin his legacy. And you've got Joaquin there as Sam's legacy as well, as the guy who's being groomed to maybe be the next Captain America. And so you've got this whole legacy theme running through here, and it's not like landed on. And I feel like it's really low hanging fruit that they could have tied all this together with. And so I'm going to pitch, what if legacy is the through line on this movie?
I think legacy is a hard thing. I agree with you. That could be a theme, but it's a hard thing to get across in a meaningful way because people don't think about their legacy until they're at the end of their lives. Most people.
But right? Ross is at the end of his life, and that's why it
right.
lands for him, because he was dying and he's estranged from his daughter and he's old now. And I feel like you can juxtapose that with the prism of all of these other people who are thinking about legacy in different ways. Like Sam is the inheritor of a legacy, and a guy who's training a new sidekick. With Stearns, who's obsessed with destroying a legacy. Like you've got all that around it, and I feel like you could have worked with that.
Yep, I agree. I mean, my theme is much darker than that. So,
fair enough. Continue.
Yeah.
So with Ross, I think this is a mischaracterization of Ross because they're trying to say, can I change from a bad man into a good man is his arc, right? So that my daughter will like me again. I don't ever see Ross as a bad man. I think General Ross as a character is about control. Like when we're first introduced to him in Incredible Hulk, he's trying to control the Hulk in order to make military use out of the Hulk, right? Make a weapon. Mm-hmm. And then when we're further introduced to this character throughout the Avengers movies, the reason he introduces the Sokovia Accords is because they lost control of the situation in Sokovia. And now the government of the world, who are not superpowered, are like, how do we keep this from happening again? So he's not evil and he's not bad. He just is about control, right? Yeah. So I think that the Brave New World misinterprets what he's actually trying to achieve. And I think that last loss of control is actually the most important thing about why he turns into a rage monster, right? And then, So, and in terms of motivations with the leader, when we last see Stearns in Incredible Hulk and Banner's blood is dripping on him, he's grinning. He's happy to have Banner's blood land on his head and turn him into the leader, right? So thematically, the thing that I wanted to explore is I wanted to explore what happens when you give these characters what they want and then they get addicted to it, right? So Ross is addicted to control, right? And so the leader is addicted to getting more gamma blood and getting smarter and smarter and smarter. And then Sam, what I wanted to introduce was the question about whether he should take the serum. I wanted to introduce the idea that Sam gets very, very injured early in the movie, and they do give him a kind of serum so that he can heal quickly. And so he's temporarily super. So when they go to the lab to investigate the leader, he's super there. And Joaquin gets injured, like really injured, right? And then Sam loses his powers. So by the time you're going to the Indian Ocean, Sam needs to abandon Joaquin because he's injured to go face this threat alone. But Joaquin follows him anyways in his own flight suit, injured. And that's why Joaquin gets brutally injured in the Indian Ocean battle, where the only person who can save him. Oh, and then the thing is the medicine that's given to Sam that makes him temporarily super is from Ross, because Ross got it from the leader. Right. And
of course. Yeah.
Right. And it's the same thing that's keeping Ross's heart from exploding. Right. So tying all these things together. So what did I wanted to see is I wanted to see the leader. The reason there's a betrayal, essentially I wanted to open the movie with a flashback to 17 years ago, right after the Incredible Hulk, where Ross has Stearns, but he's not fully the leader yet. And he says, I need you to do stuff for me. What do you want? To Stearns, and Stearns says, I want more. And he's like, well, you've got all this room full of Banner blood. I can give you what you need, but you have to work for me. And Stearns is like, you don't understand. I want all of it. Right. And so Stearns gets addicted to Banner's blood. And then once Ross gets the potion or whatever, the medicine that keeps him from dying, all the blood is gone. It's been turned into potion to keep Ross alive. Right. And Ross is addicted to staying alive, basically through Banner blood. Yeah. But he already knows he's a Red Hulk in the movie. He already knows he's going to change and he has to control it. And so that by the time you get to the end where he's going to lose control, it actually is devastating, because he's actually now revealing that he can't stop from becoming a rage monster. It wasn't accidental and it wasn't a trick. It's something he did to himself to stay alive. Right. And then Sam at the end has been super, and he knows what it feels like, but he has to face, now truly vulnerable. He has to face Red Hulk completely not super, like completely. There's no way to go get that because Ross has taken all of the rest of the serum. Right. Or actually even better, he has to give the final dose to Joaquin to keep him alive. Right. So
yeah, that's good.
So that was what I wanted to do, was say, okay, let's explore these, let's tie these three characters together thematically and say, what do they all need? And let's take it away from them. Right. So Sam's real journey is not only have I've gotten a taste of being super and I really liked it and I can never have it again. And now I have to figure out how to be good at this without being super.
And you know what's sick about that is because Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we already get him being like, do I have what it takes to be Cap? Do I have what it takes to be Cap without Super Soldier? And how do you do that again? Will you let him have a taste of being super? Yeah. And then the lesson he learns is like, oh, the real Captain America was inside us all along. Like,
exactly.
Yeah. That's great.
What I do like about this bit of Ross giving Sam the miracle cure for his injuries or to accelerate his injury healing is that it dovetails nicely into the things that were done to Isaiah, so that like their experiment, like it, he can feel like what if Ross and Sam were quite chummy to begin with the movie. Like he's been using Captain America, quite frequently to solve a lot of problems, and they've developed a good relationship. But then a Ross who, like you say, Robin, needs full control when his golden boy is injured, he experiments on him because he needs him in that moment to make sure that he doesn't lose this accord with the Japanese for the adamantium, and then he kind of experiments on. So towards the end, Sam makes the decision to, like, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm going to be Captain America in my own way, and I'm not going to be Captain America with you, kind of thing. And then that at least sets up the idea of, like, for future movies, is like he's kind of going it alone. And you can go into your next movies with Captain America having to actually build from something, rather than them just kind of saying, like, oh, I'm just going to go build the Avengers. Of course I am. Like, he's starting from scratch. And then you've started off your next movie with an interesting place to have Captain America sit.
Yep. I agree.
Dig it.
I still like the idea of having Betty Ross more baked into the plot, especially if you've got all this gamma stuff going on, and especially if you need Sam to unravel. To unravel the part of the gamma plot that's going on in the background. It was a huge missed opportunity. If you were going to write her into the movie anyway, it was a huge missed opportunity not to write her in more fully and have her be the person who's, like, running the science in the background and letting Sam know the serum that saved your life is based on Bruce's experimentation. It's gamma stuff, which means that the stuff my dad has been taking is gamma stuff. Oh my God. Like, he's been mainlining that stuff for years. Like, who knows what he could have done? And then, like, you're spitting into, there's a real danger here. This guy could be a Hulk and we don't know it. Like, it feels like such a missed opportunity now in hindsight. And it's not even something I considered until we were talking about it.
Agreed. Yeah. If there's going to be people changing hands, gamma medicine changing hands, that can be the role she plays. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like that fix, by the way, Robin. It was great. I really appreciate that.
That was better than my stupid Legacy idea.
I disagree. I think Legacy is a good one too, but mine, I just,
dig it. Well, I think those are all completely valid ways to add a little more to this perfectly serviceable action adventure film that might be getting a bit of a bad rap because of all the crap that has come before it. But we recommend Brave New World, and we definitely recommend the version of it that we pitched. But you had your own pitches. So thank you to everyone who commented. We solicit these on our social media, wherever you're following us on the internet. When we ask for these comments, we love to hear what you think. Brings great insight to the discussion, like our guest shared, and like our listeners shared here. Josh Scar from the Talking Smack podcast had a lot to say, but I would love to just recommend go check out Talking Smack, superhero movies, animation, and comics. They did a whole episode on Captain America: Brave New World. So if you want to hear all of Josh's thoughts as well as his co-host Alex, I recommend you check out them. Good friends of ours. But short version that he shared with us, Josh says, they need to embrace the diehard of the situation and showcase Sam's ingenuity and determination to succeed even against a Hulk. We see how he's adapted his skill set into his fighting style. See the sonic boom attack at the start of the movie. But throughout the movie, he's stabbed, broken, and hurt multiple times only to shrug it off and keep going as though he is a super soldier. Sam needs to continue to lose his tools throughout the movie and rely more on his experience and training than his tech. The entire fight with the Red Hulk is just dodging and throwing energy-charged vibranium daggers at the Red Hulk. We should see more callbacks to his training where Isaiah and the use of the sonic boom attack are a little more relevant.
Yeah, that's not bad. Which is interesting because you had actually just said before, Liam, that you were disappointed with how diehardy it was with Sam. And Josh is suggesting you just kind of lean into it here.
Oh, no, I didn't say I'm saying you don't have to go full Die Hard. Josh is advocating for full Die Hard. I was advocating for like a die half chub, you know?
Andrew Craig says, it was my favorite Marvel movie in ages, which is not saying much, but I thought it was on par with Phase 1 in storytelling and complexity. Simple and straightforward, which isn't a bad thing. Mackie was awesome. Ford was good too. Its failings, I think, have way more to do with the toxicity of the fan base than anything else, coupled with the fact that their A-listers are now pretty used up, and they are the big draw for Marvel comic fans. Without these heroes available, it makes it tough to get support. My biggest criticism overall would be the inclusion of Sabra, but not because of anything political. It's the fact that she's the president's head of security. The president of the United States had a foreign national who was trained in the Red Room. Even in the MCU, that's a tough pill to swallow. Additionally, though, she is consistently visibly the smallest person in the room. There's simply no way she was hired for that position. I should clarify, while I am not at all against female heroes or characters, love Black and White Widow, Captain Marvel, etc., I just thought that in this particular situation she was miscast. I would have gone with Gal Gadot or someone like her.
Yeah, she's distractingly tiny.
I thought it was kind of fun though that she was this like scrappy.
I've said it twice now.
Yeah, she's this scrappy littler person who like absolutely holds her own as a super spy, and I like at no point did I not buy into it. I was just like, yeah, no, that tracks. Like,
yeah. Intra 86 says, Batman needed more screen time.
Yeah,
we recognize this movie's been out for less than a week when we asked for it, and I did not expect everyone to have gone to see it. So,
yeah, Robin Slack on that note says, as a Captain America film, it was serviceable, but as an Aldous Huxley adaptation, it was abysmal. Then adds, I haven't actually watched it, but I don't think Red Hulk was in the original text.
I mean, there is a whole beat in Brave New World about people taking pills called Soma to, change their perception of reality. And so, I mean, at least in terms of people taking weird science pills, there's some crossover.
There you go.
Well, thank you, Robin, for joining us, both at the movie and on the pod.
Thanks, guys. Glad to be here. Appreciate it.
And that pretty much concludes the episode. So, I mean, if you want to get in on this more than just listening to the podcast, we'd be happy to interact with you all over the place. You can check us out right now on Blue Sky at I Have Some Notes over there. The best place, though, to get in touch with us, as always, is our Discord server. That's where we're always having great conversations, talking about new releases, talking about upcoming releases, talking about TV. We've got conversations going on there all the time, and it's usually pretty good. You can get in on it right now by following the link, which will be posted with this episode. And of course, as always, give us a little rating and review on your podcatcher of choice, because that helps us out.
Patreon.com/I Have Some Notes if you want to support us financially and get access to some bonus content we've released over the past 2 seasons since we launched the Patreon. There's some cool recommendation podcasts episodes called I Have Some Recs, some special side notes editions, and new stuff coming down the pipe. And just our eternal gratitude for showing us support in that capacity.
Yeah, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. As has been tradition with season 10, we don't know exactly what movie we're doing. Maybe it'll be Supergirl. Maybe it'll be Zardoz. Maybe it'll be Citizen Kane. It won't be Citizen Kane, but it'll be something, so we'll see you then.
Until then, I'm Liam Creswick.
I'm Scott C. Bourgeois.
I'm Greg Beaver. Keep watching the skies.